Good morning, everybody. This is Toucan Dragon, and welcome back to Digimon Rearise. Before we start the video, I just want to apologize for releasing this video kinda late. I wanted to release this video on the day the banner dropped, but some things came up that forced me to postpone this video. This week has been a little crazy, so just a quick heads up, I might not be posting that many videos this week. But anyways, let's talk about these Imperialdramons, shall we? At first glance, these ancient dragons look pretty good, and since they are Imperialdramons, we are going to want them to be, right? I mean, these are the two main protagonist Digimon fused together from Digimon Adventure 02. But to justify pulling for them, like most Digimon that have been released recently, it all depends on what you're lacking on your Battle Park team. These Digimon are good and can potentially be a star on your team, if you're a new player. In my opinion, I feel like these Digimon are here mostly to help people who are brand new to the game and have never had a chance to pull for Omegamon, Alpha, and All-Force. And also for people who were around but sadly could not pull for them. If Imperialdramon is your favorite Digimon and you really want them, then I would say go for it. You would get more use out of it. However, keep in mind for players like us, who have had the chance to pull for meta-changing Digimon like Omega and All-Force, it's kind of bait. To start off our analysis, let's begin with Imperialdramon Dragon Mode. It was a little difficult to find the right Digimon to compare him to. His stats are actually better than your average Brave Mega, but I think I found a few good Digimon that can be compared with him. Alphamon and Gallantmon are here because both of these Digimon are a few of the best Brave Digimon that we currently have in Global. And Hercules Kabuterimon is in this list because he was a guaranteed Brave Digimon that you could have gotten in his step up, and his stats and abilities are slightly better than your average Brave Mega. Now keep in mind, Omegamon is not in this comparison because he is not a Mega. He is actually an Ultra level Digimon, so his stats will be better regardless. So starting with the HP stat, Imperialdramon Dragon Mode has 5720 HP, which is slightly better than Hercules Kabuterimon, who is at 5091, and it's the same as Gallantmon, who's also at 5720. Now looking at the power is where things start changing. Imperialdramon is at 3920, which is higher than Hercules Kabuterimon's 3520. However, it's not as high as Gallantmon's 4309. However, keep in mind that Gallantmon is not just a Mega, he is a Royal Knight, so his stats are going to be slightly better than your average Mega. And Hercules Kabuterimon here, he's more of a Brave support than he is as a Brave attacker. Now looking at the defense, Imperialdramon's defense is at 1339, which is the same as Gallantmon's 1339, but Hercules Kabuterimon's defense is at 1613. So Hercules Kabuterimon can take more damage than Imperialdramon and Gallantmon, but Gallantmon does have his little gimmick going on in his main skill. He gives himself basically 4200 more HP in skill level 1, but Imperialdramon doesn't really have that. Now looking at their speed, surprisingly enough, Kabuterimon's speed is the highest at 30, while Imperialdramon and Gallantmon they're both at 27. Now comparing Imperialdramon with Alphamon, Alphamon has a major edge with his HP at 6860, which is more than 1000 points higher than Imperialdramon's 5720, and on top of that, Alphamon has the same amount of power as Imperialdramon at 3920. They both can do pretty good damage, however Alphamon can take more hits with his high HP and his high defense, which is at 1584, which compared to Imperialdramon at 1339, he is more tanky than Imperialdramon. But then again, keep in mind, Alphamon is a Royal Knight, so his stats are going to be slightly better than a regular Digimon like Imperialdramon, because Imperialdramon technically isn't a Royal Knight. Now looking at their speed, Imperialdramon's speed is way better at 27, while Alpha is at 8. However, you could easily fix that with Alphamon's plugins, which increases his speed by quite a bit. Now looking at their abilities, here you can kind of tell why Imperialdramon is more situational than the other Digimon that we have here in this comparison. In Imperialdramon's main skill, he deals 340% damage to 2 enemies, while also decreasing the defense by 30% for 2 turns, and increasing his own power by 30% for 2 turns again. And at skill level 1, he has a skill cooldown at 125 seconds. Now his main skill seems pretty good. I would say his main skill is probably the best part about him, because he's debuffing the enemy and buffing himself. Now comparing his main skill with Gallantmon, Gallantmon does do more damage at 460, but it's only to 1 enemy, and he increases his own counter rate by 30%. But on top of that, Gallantmon has his gimmick, which gives him a slight edge over Imperialdramon. Gallantmon gives himself basically 4200 HP at skill level 1 with this new shield effect. So Gallantmon's here dealing more damage, but it's just to a single enemy, versus Imperialdramon Dragon Mode, who's doing it to 2 enemies. And now looking at Hercules Kabuterimon, there's a slight difference here because Kabuterimon is more of a brave support. He does 280% damage to 3 enemies and reduces their defense by 30% and their counter rate by 30%. So Kabuterimon is here to help your team deal more damage to the enemy and making them hit less, while Gallantmon is here to buff himself and keep himself alive, and Imperialdramon is here to kind of do a mix of the two. Debuff the enemy, like Kabuterimon, and buff himself to deal more damage, like Gallantmon. However, after his main skill, it's going to start getting more situational. In his sub-skill, he deals 210% damage to 3 enemies, with a 40% chance to inflict blind on those targets for 2 turns. And this is for 90 seconds, so it's pretty low, and at skill level 10, it goes down to 75 seconds, so you could fire this more often. The only thing is that blind. To my knowledge, there's not a lot of Digimon that can nullify blind. I say this a lot, but it's true. The only thing I could think of is Ophanimon, as of right now. But keep in mind, not a lot of people are running Ophanimon. So there's a higher chance of you being able to inflict blind to an enemy. But just because they're blind doesn't mean they can't hit you. I've been blind before plenty of times at Battle Park, and I can still hit my opponent. Right now, I feel like dot damage is doing pretty good in the Battle Park, especially with Beelzemon with that error, because not a lot of Digimon can nullify error, and with error, if your opponent moves, they take damage, so it helps you with the kill. Versus blind, it's kind of 50-50. If they get blind, there's a chance for them to attacking you, a chance for them not attacking you. You know, it's situational. And now looking at Gallantmon's sub-skill again, we kind of went over it in the last video, but I'm going to go over it again real fast. He does damage to 4 enemies, he shortens their buffs for a turn, and decreases their tech by 30%. By the way, Gallantmon's sub-skill surpasses Imperialdramon, because all Imperialdramon's doing is trying to inflict blind on the opponent, while Gallantmon is removing all the buffs on the opponent, including the passives, and decreasing their tech, so they're doing less damage. And especially right now, since it's Deft Week, some good Deft Digimon like Lilithmon are tech damage based, and Gallantmon helps nerf them. Now looking at Hercules Kabu's skill, Hercules Kabuterimon's sub-skill, he deals 130% damage to all enemies and reduces their power and tech by 30%. Again, his sub-skill kinda surpasses Imperialdramon's sub-skill, not because of the damage, but because of the debuffing. But then again, Kabuterimon is a brave support. He's here to debuff the enemy, while Gallantmon is also here to kind of debuff the enemy and to keep himself alive, to keep doing it. And Imperialdramon is here to kinda do both with his main skill and kind of just distract the enemy with his sub-skill. But going down to his passive, so theoretically he looks okay, but as we move down to his passive, it kind of dies down a little bit. But moving down to his passive, it kind of turns it off. Imperialdramon's passive is completely situational, at least the second part. The first part is kind of your basic passive. He nullifies all stun effects targeting your brave allies. It's your basic one. However, he deals 1.35 times more damage to deft enemies, only for 5 turns. So you can see why this is kind of situational, and why this banner came out during this week. It's bait. He's meant to excel during this week. However, this week is halfway over. I have not seen this guy at all during this week. So that means if your opponent is not running Brave Digimon the following weeks, he can't excel as much. Versus Gallantmon, he's buffing himself and his allies. Gallantmon's passive, he gives all Brave allies 30% more power, and he buffs his own crit rate by 30%. So if we pair Imperialdramon with Gallantmon, then Imperialdramon could do more damage. However, Gallantmon's doing more damage regardless of the week. Even without the boost that Gallantmon has this month, he's dealing more damage because of his passive. And then looking at Hercules Competarimon's passive skill, again, it's kind of the basic skill where he's helping your Brave allies become immune to dot damage. Next, with Alphamon, Alphamon has slightly better utility with that skill lock. Only 2 Digimon can negate skill lock. Well, technically 1 with Sakuyamon. She protects all your allies from skill lock for a few turns, I believe. And Magnadramon, who could protect herself from skill lock for 2 turns. But other than that, he's skill locking everybody else. Well, a 50% chance to skill lock 3 enemies. But to add to that effect though, he's buffing himself. He increases his power by 25% each time he uses an ability. And that stacks up all the way to 75%. And that's permanent. And then going down to Alphamon's sub-skill, he's doing damage to 1 enemy. But again, he's increasing his own power by 25%. And then he has his basic stun, negate, stun immunity for Brave allies for a turn, which is the same as Imperialdramon's first part to his passive. So again, Imperialdramon looks good because he has that added effect to deal more damage to deft enemies, but if your opponent has no deft enemies, then he's not doing much damage. Versus Gallantmon and Alphamon, they're buffing themselves regardless, with either their passive or their own little gimmick. So they're going to deal more damage as the turns keep going. And Competarimon, he's there to help your team deal more damage, because he knows he can't deal damage, so he's supporting the team. So yeah, that's why I kinda don't like this Imperialdramon, because he reminds me too much of Examon. He can be really good, but he's extremely situational. Next, let's go over Imperialdramon Fighting Mode, which, to be honest, he's the one I like the most of the two because of his stats as a Tenacious and his main skill, but there are some problems to him. But first, looking at his stats, his HP is at 7997, which compared to Machinedramon is slightly higher. And then comparing it to Kaiser Greymon blows them both out of the park because his HP is at 9996. But again, Kaiser is not doing much damage other than his passive, which is his gimmick, which helps him a little bit, but I still don't like Kaiser that much, to be honest. But anyways, looking at the power, Imperialdramon, I believe, has the highest power for a Tenacious Digimon at 3305, and Imperialdramon has his power at 2871, while Kaiser has it at 1882. However, Kaiser still has a little gimmick going on that buffs his power slightly after 9 hits for 1 ability attack. But anyways, look at the defense. Imperialdramon has 1339, which is the same as Kaiser, which isn't much, but less than Machinedramon, which he has at 1483, which is good because Machinedramon is all about taking hits and counter attacking. And then looking at their speed, Imperialdramon has a speed at 22, which is the same with Machinedramon, but they're both less than Kaiser Greymon, who has it at 25. Next up, let's compare him to another good Tenacious attacker that we have, who was actually pretty good back in the day when this first came out. So Gankumon has HP at 7327, which is slightly lower than Imperialdramon's, and he has his power at 3175, which again is slightly lower than Imperialdramon, but Gankumon was the one with the highest power before Imperialdramon released. But his defense is at 1409, which is higher than Imperialdramon's 1339, and they both have the same speed. Now, just like Imperialdramon Dragon Mode, this Imperialdramon's best skill is his main skill. And then after that, with each skill, it becomes more situational. So his main skill is he deals 340% damage to 2 enemies, but he targets Digimon with a damage limiter first, and deals damage to them, ignoring their limit, while also decreasing the limit by 1, which in theory is extremely good, but there's a problem to this. He can't buff himself. Imperialdramon needs support. Yes, he might be a tenacious Digimon with the highest power stat, but that can only go so far. His raw power isn't that strong compared to other attacking Digimon that we have that are brave and calm, and even deft. He needs a buff, because after that damage limiter ignoring and removal, he increases his counter rate by 50%, which is pretty good because he is attacking more often, but that's it. He can't buff his power with any of his other skills like these other Digimon can. Machinedramon has his own gimmick where he's increasing his counter rate so he's attacking more often, and each time he attacks more often he's dealing more damage. While Kaiser Greymon, he's debuffing the enemy, and with his passive he's storing power to do one massive hit, so his low power stat kinda negates a little bit. While Imperialdramon, yes, has a high power stat, and yes, he ignores damage limiter, but after that Omegamon goes out, because more than likely that Omegamon will probably faint because Omegamon in general don't have the best defense. They're very squishy. The other Digimon that your opponent has will not be as squishy and he won't be able to take him out. Moving on to his sub-skill, he deals 210% damage to 3 enemies. But again, this is where it becomes situational and it varies. On top of that, he increases Calm Allies crit rate by 30% for 2 turns. And his cooldown is 90 seconds at skill level 1 and 75 seconds at skill level 10, which could be pretty good in a calm team. He will do great in a calm team, but that's it. He can't stand by himself. Without calm Digimon around him, he's not working at his full potential, which is basically buffing calm Digimon to do more damage and to keep him alive. Like Ulforce. I'm pretty sure he can help Ulforce out quite a bit. Another one would be Magna Garurumon, increase the crit rate, but other than calm allies, that's all he's working for. And now looking at Machinedramon's sub-skill, it's not really an attack, but he's buffing everybody, not just calm allies, not just tenacious. He's buffing everybody. He's giving everybody plus 40% block rate for a turn, and he's letting those allies take more hits when they're blocking because he'll lower the damage they take by 70% when they block. And Kaiser Greymon, he's decreasing the enemy's block rate by 30%. You see, both these Digimon here, they're supporting their allies regardless of their personality, while Imperialdramon's only focusing on calm, and that's a slight problem. Now, if you have a full calm team, he'll do fine, but right now not a lot of people are doing that. Well, especially right now since this week is Deft Week, so you kind of see the problem here. And then moving down to his passive is the only thing that kind of buffs him a little bit. It just keeps him alive slightly. He increases his defense by 50% for 1 turn. And other than that, his secondary effect is he increases all calm allies power damage resistant by 30% for 2 turns. Compared to Machinedramon's passive skill and Kaiser Greymon's passive skill, this like, it is good, but without calm allies with him, he's not really doing much. He's just kind of there. Which is kind of sad because he seems pretty cool. And lastly, comparing him with Gankromon, we kind of fall under that same boat because Gankromon, his main skill and sub-skill help allies resist either tech damage or power damage, while his passive skill increases all allies' block rate by 30%. So again, we have that general support here with Gankromon, but very specific and narrow support with Imperialdramon. Yes, he has his main skill, which could ignore Omegamon's whole gimmick, his damage limiter, but he can't buff himself while doing that, unlike other attacking Digimon that we have. Like his Brave Form. His Brave Form, whenever he attacks, he's debuffing the enemy and buffing himself. Here, yes, he's ignoring the damage limiter, but if your opponent has increased block on their side, or an Omegamon with high defense with the plugins, then he's not gonna knock him out right away. The only bright side he has here is decreasing that damage limiter by 1, but again, you could have done that either way without him. you know? So, unfortunately, Imperialdramon is not as good as he can be. Now, when his calm version comes out, when his Paladin mode releases, then he might be able to support his Paladin form. But as of now, when it's not calm week, he's gonna be kinda just there. With all that said, if you pull for these guys and you can find use for them, then that's great, because they can be useful. Don't think I'm just bashing them. They both have the potential to help mixed teams, don't get me wrong. However, keep in mind that this kind of feels like a bait. They released the main Digimon in Adventure 02 during Deft Week and before Tenacious Week, so I smell something fishy. Yes, they might be good this week and even the next one, but after that they'll start declining in usage because they'll be no longer needed in the battle park, especially if you're a veteran player. If you're a new player, these guys will help you way more, and you'll get more use out of them. For you veteran players though, who already have Digimon like Omegamon, keep in mind we don't know what's coming next month, so my opinion is make sure you at least set some rubies aside just in case. But what do you guys think? Have you guys pulled for these Digimon yet? If so, how are they treating you in the battle park? And if not, what Digimon are you saving your rubies for? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then please click on that like button. And if you want to support this channel, then you should subscribe and turn on notifications so you can be notified when I post more videos. This has been Toucan Dragon, and if I can, you can too. Bye guys.